Hello, my name is Stefon Johns, and this is my EDM plan overview for Oregon Health and Science University in Portland, Oregon. In the first report, the discussion was focused on big data and its impacts on OHSU. As stated, OHSU continues to be a leader in healthcare with innovative data practices, patient satisfaction, and outreach. Data integrity and governance are also extremely important concepts to note from this report. OHSU is a multidisciplinary organization in that there are education, healthcare, clinical research, and HR departments. In continuing to enable the organization to make better decisions through insights garnered from trustworthy data that's been collected, it is recommended that OHSU implement a data governance committee comprised of managers from each department. This will ensure that data is clean, consistent, usable, and reliable for each department. With a clear understanding of data governance and the effects big data has on OHSU, the report moves forward to discuss dimensional modeling. While the report and the rest of the EDM plan do focus on the healthcare department, it was important to make sure that it was stated that this whole process can be implemented in any other department whatsoever at OHSU. But since we focused on the healthcare department and we will continue to do so, there are many different business processes that need to be addressed with dimensional models. Kimball and Ross provide an excellent example of this in the picture you see on the left of your screen. We can see that there are several different types of events that occur within a normal healthcare setting, and this is known as a case study bus matrix. From there, the business process belonging to clinical events patient encounter workflow was selected. With the business process selected, the grain is then identified as one row in a table containing the values necessary to produce the grain. The third step, identifying the dimensions, then becomes a simple task as each row's column values define that dimension. This can be seen in the image on the right of the screen. As well as with date, patient, physician, intake, facility, and diagnosis dimensions, the star schema presented ensures that the fact table will only have one set of dimensions. However, should the business process involve a foreign key in one of the dimensions, a snowflake schema would work more efficiently as it is an extension in which there are added dimensions on one or more dimension spokes. As noted by Taylor, the Galaxy cluster may end up being the best option for OHSU as a whole organization, as that allows for two fact tables to connect to one another via common dimensions, example being date, facility, and employee. Through this dimensional modeling process, OHSU will be able to improve patient outcomes as well as collect, share, and analyze insights throughout the organization. The last report discussed and proposed plans for migration to a new EDM platform. This discussion involves new technologies needed to effectively manage, clean, and stage data. Kimball and Ross define ETL as the process of extracting, transforming, and loading business data for collection and analysis. With migrating to a new system, an ETL tool is necessary to provide a robust environment in which the process can garner the best results. This tool, the one suggested, is called IBM DataStage. The tier, Enterprise Plus Edition, of the product would provide the best solution given the size and complexity of the data collected at OHSU. This solution offers not only ETL tools and data integration, but also allows for metadata management and an unlimited number of users. In using DataStage, it is then possible to move to extraction of current data. There are many different locations that vital data is stored with varying different states, whether that be in paper form, digital form, or an Excel spreadsheet of some kind. With the help of IBM DataStage, all data can be successfully extracted, then put through an archival process to create a master dataset. Kimball and Ross state that an archival process should be a default strategy after extraction, yet before transforming the data. Once the data is archived, it is imperative to gather the business requirements to ensure that data quality and cleaning process for the transformation. As previously discussed, this should be completed by the governance committee as well as any DBAs and system administrators attached to the project. And moving into transformation, databases and data storage is necessary to ensure complete control of data integrity and compliance. As such, OHSU should utilize Microsoft OneDrive for Business for data storage, as it is HIPAA compliant, as well as Microsoft SQL Server for their database, as that is the most used program currently throughout the healthcare department and would require the least amount of training. The team that would be responsible for administration and maintenance would be current DBAs and system administrators, as they are all currently aware of the ETL process and would be able to virtualize data. The tool that would be most beneficial for this would be ER Studio Enterprise Team Edition from Idera. As it boasts end-to-end lineage tracking, it is a data modeling tool, and it helps with data governance and integrity, as well as it is easy to integrate with any existing tools. While transforming the data, it is recommended that a data profiling tool be used to aid in removing any errors that exist from extraction. The suggested tooling is from Idera again, but it is a free plugin for Microsoft SQL Server called SQL Data Profiler. And the wonderful thing about this is that it can actually connect to several different instances of Microsoft SQL Server, so several people can use it at the same time on the same instance if that's what's happening. But it boasts recommendations based on column data, and it has a value summary report generation feature. Finally, concluding in step 3, loading the data, in which data will be virtualized to abstract detailed information from business users that do not need to see them in the staging area. The loading process should utilize an initial load and incremental loads. Taylor says the incremental loads apply ongoing changes periodically or as needed. As such, the initial load should contain all the necessary data to establish the new database without hindering or interrupting current business processes. The recommended tool for analyzing, presenting, and staging the data will be Microsoft Power BI. This tool will allow the BI developers as well as the DBAs the ability to create and provide data insights and analysis to the correct departments utilizing dashboards that can be accessed on web, mobile, or PC. As discussed in a previous report, data warehouse architecture is extremely important, and as you can see on the screen here, this is a model of a data warehouse architecture that I've put up based on the tooling that I have suggested and based on the events of the matrix bus. This would be the best architecture for OHSU. When it comes to staffing, cost, and benefits, there are several recommendations that can be made. As previously stated, regarding staffing, it would be best to continue to utilize the DBAs and system administrators that OHSU currently employs. This fits perfectly into the EDM landscape as proposed by Kimball and Ross. In addition, 3 levels of BI developers, level 1, 2, and 3, will be necessary to stage and present data as well as offer insights to business users. It would be recommended to have 2 developers at each level in order to offer the greatest level of insight necessary to the entire organization, whereas it is my suggestion that 1 level 3 and maybe 2 level 1 or 2s would be needed for just the healthcare department. That way it would reduce overall staffing cost, and should the plan be implemented anywhere else, we already know how much it would cost for a whole team of BI developers. While utilizing many of the tools that are currently in use, costs can be reduced by reducing the staffing that are needed for the BI solution, IBM Data Stage being used. While that does not have a cost, it would be beneficial to use that as it has the most robust offering. And with OHSU being a healthcare and education and clinical research organization, it actually would be beneficial to spend a little bit more on that ETL tool to make sure that all of the data gets transferred and loaded correctly. All right, and then of course with the BI developers, this will always change depending on the number, of course, and if it is going to be used across the entire organization. So it would be about 89,000 to 175, depending on their experience level, 1,000 per year. So with that in mind, hiring 2 developers to work in just the healthcare department would be more cost effective, I suppose, as opposed to having everyone for each department to start off, because then we'll have the groundwork laid with just these people. So then once this project is done, those people can move on to the next project and so on and so forth. All right, and then finally, the timeline. My goal, it would be a 10-week timeline in which the first week we're gathering business requirements, we're creating the governance committee, and then we begin the dimensional modeling for each type of events, which would start with clinical events, with the second week going into the dimensional modeling for billing and revenue, and then that second week also starting the dimensional modeling for operational events. Those lead into the third week where we get into data extraction for those clinical events, making sure that we get all of the data that we can from every source that we can for clinical events, and for every business process. And then we move into the data extraction continued for clinical events, and then billing and revenue would begin at the same time. This is why my suggestion was to have at least 2 BI developers that are level 1 and level 2, because then that would be easier, because extraction is probably one of the easiest steps of the ETL process for newer BI developers to complete. Going into week 4, of course, we have our operational events data extraction, and then from there, that Friday, it would be beneficial to set up a whole week where the data is then all archived to create that data master set. Then we go through the clinical event transformation in week 6, the billing revenue and revenue event transformation in week 7. Week 8 is dedicated to operational events, with week 9 beginning the initial load and the incremental load, as well as data virtualization. And then week 10 ends with the last or the second incremental load, because this incremental loads will continue forward. But going into Tuesday, it would go into the billing revenue virtualization and the operational virtualization, as those don't have as many events within them, if that makes sense. So that could be done in concurrency. And then, of course, we'd go into staging. All right. And so, yeah, with the past 3 weeks' reports, we have been able to successfully identify business processes, requirements, tooling, and benefits for this EDM plan. There are several benefits, including tooling cost reduction with centralized software and HIPAA-compliant data storage, patient outcome improvements through analyzing clean and reliable data, and increase in revenue with streamlined processes created from event insight analysis. All of these benefits come with the detriment of staffing costs. However, that can be easily overcome with meaningful insights and decision making made from those insights. Thank you for watching, and I hope that you got some valuable information from this video.